food, water, shelter, the three basic needs of human survival. Among these, food has often been regarded as the most fundamental, an idea that is captured by an ancient Chinese proverb: food is the most important thing for the people. A strategist used the saying in the records of the grand historian to advise Liu Bang, who would later become the founding emperor of the Han Dynasty. The advice was simple: prioritize securing food for your followers. Liu Bang needed the support of the people, and the people needed food in order to support him. This advice proved to be critical to Liu Bang's victory and to become Emperor Gaozu. Originally, this proverb stressed the idea that basic needs such as food were the primary duty of a ruler, and essential for maintaining order. Today, it perfectly captures how food is significant to a culture, not just necessary for survival. According to historical records, Chinese cuisine is judged by the 5 elements. These qualities are color, aroma, flavor, presentation, and form. Achieving these standards depend on the chef's mastery on the 4 essential cooking characteristics: ingredient selection, knife skills, heat control, and seasoning. After thousands of years of evolution, Chinese cuisine is not just one unified Chinese food, but actually multiple distinct cuisines, each with its own history and flavor. Chinese food today includes over 30 different ways of cooking, but the 6 most common cooking techniques that we usually see are stir-frying, steaming, deep-frying, stewing, boiling, and pan-frying. During the Qing dynasty, 4 of the most popular regional cuisines were formally established as the 4 great cuisines. These were Lu cuisine from the Shandong region, Yue cuisine from the Guangdong region, Su cuisine from the Jiangsu region, and Chuan cuisine from the Sichuan region. However, just 4 great cuisines was not enough to capture all of the different traditions of Chinese food. Through later academic debate, 4 more culinary traditions were added, leading to the modern concept of the 8 great cuisines that we know today. The 4 added cuisines are Zhe cuisine from the Zhejiang region, Ming cuisine from the Fujian region, Hui cuisine from the Anhui region, and Xiang cuisine from the Hunan region. These are culinary traditions shaped by geography, culture, and history itself. Hi everyone, I'm Amy. Today we will be traveling through the history of China to see how each dynasty shaped and transformed Chinese food to create the 8 great cuisines that we know today. What makes each one so special? Did you know that Shandong cuisine is generally considered to be China's very first regional cuisine? This culinary tradition is believed to date back to the ancient Shang dynasty, over 3,000 years ago. It mainly used steaming and boiling and was developed in areas that would later become modern-day Shandong. The Shandong region is at the heart of northern China, where the dry and temperate climate made wheat, millet, and sorghum the main crops. This shaped an early food culture built around noodles, steamed buns, and hearty soups. Shandong cuisine first took shape during the spring and autumn period, especially within the powerful state of Qi. The region had access to seafood, fertile farmland, and salt resources, which supported a developing food culture. Early Shandong chefs refined their cooking methods to include early forms of stewing and expanded preservation methods by developing fermented soybean pastes, which would later evolve into modern-day soy sauce. The state of Qi was not just wealthy, it was culturally influential. Elaborate feasts were common, turning sophisticated cooking into a statement of power and cultural pride. This commitment to culinary excellence is best captured by the story of Yi Ya. He is widely considered China's first recorded celebrity chef. Serving Duke Huan of Qi, his culinary skills and fame built a reputation for Shandong cuisine, which soon became recognized across northern China as the standard for culinary excellence. By the Qing and Han dynasties, Shandong cuisine was well recognized and even popular within the imperial palace. Early forms of stir-frying as a high-heat cooking method were becoming more common, And Shandong chefs developed their own specialized variation known as quick frying. This involves rapidly tossing ingredients in very hot oil over a big fire, creating concentrated flavors that would become a signature of Shandong cuisine. Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty was famous for hosting elaborate banquets, and many believed that he personally favored Shandong cuisine. This imperial connection influenced the core characteristics of the Shandong cuisine. It became known for being savory and umami, focusing on the natural flavor of high-quality ingredients, with an emphasis on using soup and stocks to bring out richness. Imperial chefs enhanced these dishes further using vinegar, early forms of soy sauce, and sweeteners like honey or malt sugar, layering the foundations for the famous sweet and sour flavors we know today. Today's iconic sweet and sour carp traces directly back to those early vinegar-braised fish recipes. Another Shandong classic, stewed fish in wine sauce, evolved from ancient techniques of fermenting and braising, and is a reminder of the great seafood dishes of northern China. By the Yuan dynasty, the cooking method of roasting whole animals such as ducks and geese had also started to become popular. Later, when the Ming dynasty capital was moved to Beijing, roasting techniques from Nanjing were brought over and integrated to create the direct culinary ancestor to Beijing roast duck, which is the most famous signature dish of Beijing today. Shandong cuisine today consists of several sub-styles. There is the Jiaodong style, which focuses on fresh, light seafood. The Jinan style, which is renowned for its mastery of soup and broth techniques. And the formal Kungfu style, which specialized in proper ceremonial dishes. From its humble local origins to the splendor of the imperial court, Shandong cuisine became the gold standard that dictated culinary traditions for much of northern China. Today, Sichuan cuisine is famous worldwide for its fiery heat and numbing spices. But did you know this cuisine didn't start out spicy at all? Sichuan cuisine can be traced back to the Qing and Han dynasties, where Sichuan chefs worked with what the rivers and the mountains provided: fish, wild vegetables, and livestock. Chili peppers were still unknown in China at this point, so early Sichuan cuisine instead focused on savory and aromatic flavors. Early Sichuan cuisine chefs primarily used stewing and boiling, along with early forms of stir-frying. However, the most important signature techniques they developed were for preservation. They advanced pickling and fermenting, creating the tangy and pungent sauces necessary to preserve food in the region's humid climate. Things changed significantly during the Tang Dynasty. The city of Chengdu in the Sichuan region grew rapidly into a major center for commerce and trade. It also gained a reputation among the scholars and nobles as the first city of leisure, which accelerated the refinement of local cooking. As the Silk Road brought the new aromatics and culinary ideas into the empire, Sichuan cuisine began experimenting with new flavors and ideas. Local chefs incorporated ingredients such as garlic and ginger, layering them with the native Sichuan peppercorn. This peppercorn became Sichuan cuisine's culinary star, prized not just for flavor, but also its unique numbing sensation known as ma. Most people think Sichuan cuisine is about spiciness, but historically, the cuisine was actually defined by numbness. What's also interesting is that the Sichuan peppercorn was originally valued for its medicinal properties. Following the ancient principle of medicine and food came from the same source. This principle holds that the many ingredients used for seasoning are also vital for health and wellness. In traditional Chinese medicine, the peppercorn's warming nature and ability to dispel dampness was also believed to protect the human body, making it an ideal ingredient for consumption in the humid Sichuan basin. The flavor profile of Sichuan cuisine was so interesting that the Tang Dynasty poet Du Fu famously praised it, highlighting the region's distinctive qualities. Even without chili peppers, Sichuan chefs were already combining sour pickles, salty pastes, aromatic herbs, umami from fermentation, and the numbing ma of the peppercorn, creating dishes with many layers of flavor. For example, an early version of Sichuan-style boiled fish was simmered with fermented sauces, strong aromatics, and the numbing tingle of the Sichuan peppercorn. The growing reputation of Sichuan cuisine's complex flavors soon reached the Tang Dynasty imperial palace itself. Emperor Taizong actively encouraged cultural exchange across the empire, and envoys traveling through Sichuan recorded the area's distinctive ingredients and seasoning methods. These observations later even influenced the imperial kitchens, helping to spread Sichuan cuisine's culinary traditions across the broader Tang Dynasty culinary world. By the end of the Tang Dynasty, Sichuan cuisine had established a clear flavor identity based on complexity and the numbing ma. This laid the perfect foundation for the spicy revolution that would later transform it into the fiery cuisine we know today. Southern China had a warm and humid climate that supported rice cultivation, which made it fundamentally different from the wheat-based northern China. This abundance of rice in southern China led to a shift in culinary focus, with a leaning towards lighter preparations instead of thick and hearty sauces. The Song Dynasty was a golden age for eastern and southern China, defined by economic prosperity and bustling urban life. Cities like Yangzhou, Suzhou, and Hangzhou grew into major culture hubs, driven by a new demand for more elegant food. This encouraged regional cuisines to develop in different ways. And it was during this time that Jiangsu cuisine, Zhejiang cuisine, and Fujian cuisine began to take on clearer identities. A critical turning point came in 1127 CE. The former Northern Song Dynasty capital of Kaifeng was lost, and Emperor Gaozong of Song and the imperial court fled southward, establishing the new capital in Hangzhou. This great migration brought an influx of northern culinary traditions, techniques, and the demands of the imperial palate. This blending of northern sophistication with southern ingredients created a culinary boom and became a historical process known as the Northern-Southern fusion. Let's start with Jiangsu cuisine. This cuisine was already known for its mild flavors, with roots along the Grand Canal that went all the way back to the Sui and Tang dynasties. Emperor Gaozong's migration elevated all of this. The fusion of northern cooking methods with existing Jiangsu cuisine traditions created something even better, with a focus on precision and presentation. Intricate knife skills also became a signature of Jiangsu cuisine, where ingredients were transformed into edible art. Cooking methods focused on gentle heat and flavor preservation, including steaming, stewing, and slow simmering. Early forms of braising were also developed, evolving from traditional stewing with a greater focus on sauce reduction and enhancing flavor. As Jiangsu cuisine developed, chefs created a specialized variation of stir-frying known as quick frying with sauce. This cooking method uses light oil and gentle heat, keeping the ingredients tender while coating them in a sauce. The flavor profile of Jiangsu cuisine became defined by a light sweetness that brings out the tastes of the ingredients. Famous Jiangsu dishes today perfectly reflect this blend. Red braised lion's head meatballs showcase tender, complex pork meatballs gently simmered in savory broth. The famous Yangzhou fried rice, combining shrimp, egg, and vegetables, evolved as a signature dish of the region. Jiangsu cuisine is also known for the famous soup dumplings, or xiaolongbao, which is one of my favorite dishes. Later, when the Ming Dynasty established its first capital in Nanjing, roasting techniques became popular there, leading to delicious roasted dishes such as the Nanjing roast duck. Next, we have the Zhejiang cuisine. This cuisine can trace its roots back to the ancient Wu and Yue states of the spring and autumn period. It emphasized freshness, seasonality, and the quality of local produce, like poultry and fish. It primarily used cooking methods like steaming, stewing, boiling, and pan-frying. Over time, Zhejiang chefs also developed simmering and a lighter style of braising that uses gentle heat. It also had a strong fermentation culture, including the development of early forms of rice wine. You may even be familiar with their signature ingredient, the Shaoxing wine, which was developed from these early fermentation traditions. The main characteristics of Zhejiang cuisine is being light on the palate, with a clean, non-oily feel. This cuisine is generally organized into 3 major regional branches: Hangzhou, Shaoxing, and Ningbo. Interestingly, one of the most famous dishes of this cuisine is the Dongpo pork, which was a notable exception to this non-oily rule. The dish is named after the famous Song Dynasty poet Su Dongpo, who refined the ancient technique of slow braising pork belly in sweetened soy sauce and wine, giving us a dish celebrated for its richness and tenderness. During the Song Dynasty, as Hangzhou became more urbanized, stir-frying became more common. Its fast cooking process made it ideal for the faster-paced life of the city. But it was Emperor Gaozong's relocation to Hangzhou that truly shaped Zhejiang cuisine into what we recognize today. The arrival of the imperial court transformed the city into a political and cultural center, attracting skilled chefs, new ingredients, and created new cooking demands. Local chefs adjusted their techniques to suit the tastes of nobles and scholars, emphasizing light flavors and more beautiful presentation. The iconic Westlake vinegar fish was born during this time, featuring gently steamed fish and glazed with a delicate vinegar sauce. Further south, Fujian cuisine developed an identity born from the blending of cultures. The roots of this cuisine can be traced back to the culture of native Mingyue people, which merged with Han Chinese traditions during the Qing and Southern dynasties. The Fujian region lacked large amounts of flat, fertile lands for mass grain production, forcing its chefs to be resourceful with local ingredients, such as seafood, mushrooms, and bamboo. Early Fujian cuisines focused on natural flavors, using light cooking techniques to highlight the quality of their main ingredients. It primarily used liquid-based cooking techniques, such as steaming, boiling, and stewing. The Han Chinese migrants introduced new knowledge about seasoning, knife techniques, and heat control. They also brought in soy-based fermentation traditions, including the use of tofu and fermented bean pastes. Most importantly, they transformed the region's simple broth into deeper and richer soup base, creating the soup stock tradition that would later become a signature of Fujian cuisine. The primary flavors of Fujian cuisine are umami, savory, a lingering sweetness, and a mild sourness. An important technique that contributes to these flavors is the use of red yeast rice wine, a cooking wine made from fermented rice, which adds a distinctive coloring and aromatic complexity to braised dishes. During the Song Dynasty, major international ports like Quanzhou grew into major centers of trade and culinary exchange. Quick stir-frying became more common in Fujian cuisine as a result of urbanization. And the existing soup stock tradition added new ingredients and imported spices, creating deeper broth with layers of flavor. As the cooking methods of braising became more sophisticated, it quickly became the perfect missing piece to Fujian cuisine's soup stock tradition. Advanced braising techniques combined with a mastery of layered broth created the luxurious soup that would become Fujian cuisine's signature. One iconic example of this is the Buddha jumps over the wall, created in the Qing dynasty. This extravagant soup is made with rare ingredients and seafood, simmered into an aromatic and flavorful broth. Legend has it that even vegetarian monks were tempted to try this dish, giving it its famous name. By the end of the Song dynasty, Jiangsu cuisine, Zhejiang cuisine, and Fujian cuisine had built their own unique identities. The mountainous region of Anhui has a long history of local food traditions, but the distinct characteristics of Anhui cuisine began forming around the southern Song dynasty. During this period, the city of Huizhou in Anhui region became one of the most important cities for trade, specializing in salt, timber, tea, and ink. This created a successful group of merchants from the surrounding areas that would become known as Huizhou merchants. Anhui cuisine was born out of this rise of the Huizhou merchants and their mountain culture. In this early period, the food was simple, utilizing basic braising and stewing to make hearty meals from readily available local mountain ingredients. The subsequent Yuan dynasty implemented favorable policies toward merchants and further advanced internal trade within China, improved internal trade networks, and a wider circulation of paper money, encouraged commercial activity across the empire, and the Huizhou merchant greatly expanded their reach beyond the mountains. The geographic isolation of the mountains, combined with intense commercial travel, reinforced a reliance on two key components: preservation techniques and readily available wild mountain resources. The need to provide food for long journeys became the foundation for techniques that would define Anhui cuisine. Anhui cuisine often tastes rustic and earthy, reflecting the mountains of the region. It utilizes wild local ingredients like bamboo shoots, mushrooms, wild herbs, and river animals. This cuisine emphasizes rustic preparation, often using slow cooking methods like stewing, braising, and simmering, along with boiling for soups and broth. It is known for skillful control for cooking heat and oil to achieve deeply infused flavors, resulting in dishes with heavy oil and rich, dark colors. A classic example of this technique is called one boil, three flavors, where a single pot of ingredients is used to create three different outcomes: a clear natural broth, a reduced sauce, and a thickened glaze. Reflecting the need for food that will survive long journeys, this cuisine relied on a lot of salting, pickling, and drying. Distinctive flavoring techniques, including using local ham to add savoriness and rock sugar to enhance color and richness, creating umami flavors. A famous example of Anhui cuisine is the smelly mandarin fish. This dish starts with a fermented fish, which is then slow cooked to deliver a flavor that is the signature of the mountain merchant's food. Although the dish in its modern form was created in the Qing dynasty, its foundations can be traced back to the practical need of the Huizhou merchants. By the Ming dynasty, Huizhou cuisine had firmly established its unique identity. Guangdong cuisine is probably the most famous Chinese cuisine outside of China. In fact, many of the popular Chinese restaurants around the world are based on Guangdong cuisine. It comes from the Lingnan region and boasts one of China's longest continuous culinary histories. Its roots trace back to the ancient Nanyue Kingdom, which was centered around modern Guangzhou. Initially, this cuisine used tropical fruits, river fish, and coastal seafood. Over subsequent centuries, continuous migration, especially during the Southern Song dynasty, further enriched local traditions. However, it was during the Ming dynasty that Guangdong cuisine began to rise to international prominence and started to show the characteristics that we recognize today. The Ming dynasty promoted maritime exploration, notably through Admiral Zheng He's voyage. The regions of Guangzhou emerged as the designated gateway of commerce with the rest of the world, attracting an international mix of traders and settlers. Here, Guangdong cuisine absorbed diverse influences from Southern Asia, India, and Europe. Local chefs integrated exotic spices and new seafood varieties, creating globalized dishes and making Guangdong cuisine surprisingly international for its time. The defining characteristic of Guangdong cuisine is its natural purity. The core goal is preserving the ingredients' true taste, particularly seafood from the surrounding sea. This focus is possible because of the region's massive fishing industry and wealth of produce, giving chefs the luxury of emphasizing the ingredient itself. Chefs of this cuisine favored minimal seasoning and gentle cooking methods like steaming and quick stir-frying. Steaming is used to preserve the delicate, natural tastes of fresh ingredients, while stir-frying maximizes the flavor and keeps vegetables crispy. Guangdong cuisine prioritized flavors that are light and subtle, creating a distinct contrast with the heavily oiled or preserved styles found everywhere else. Guangdong cuisine also developed the signature technique of clay pot cooking, which created the region's famous slow-simmered soups and clay pot rice dishes. Northern roasting techniques were introduced in earlier dynasties but were adapted into what we know today as Cantonese barbecue. This cooking method uses sweet glazes and high heat to keep the meat moist and flavorful, creating famous dishes such as cha shao. This period also saw the flourishing of dim sum, originating as snacks in Guangzhou's busy tea houses. These small, varied portions, steamed or fried, became an art form. This tradition of gathering for tea, dim sum, and socializing became central to the region's culture. This pursuit of delicacy and variety became representative elements of Guangdong cuisine. Iconic examples like shrimp dumplings with their translucent wrappers and shrimp fillings, fluffy pork buns filled with sweet barbecue pork, and silky rice noodle rolls all have origins that trace back to culinary innovations from the Ming Dynasty. Today, Guangdong cuisine is broadly divided into three main styles. The Guangzhou style, known for its refinement and mastery of seafood. The Chaoshan style, which emphasizes light broth and elaborate presentation. And the Dongjiang style, known for hearty dishes of braised and preserved meats. By the end of the Ming Dynasty, Guangdong cuisine was renowned for its refinement, clean flavors, and the sophisticated culinary art of dim sum, establishing a distinct identity shaped by maritime trade and cultural exchange. The late Ming Dynasty saw a culinary revolution with the arrival of chili peppers from the Americas. These peppers thrived in the humid climates of inland provinces like Sichuan and Hunan and changed their existing culinary traditions. In Sichuan cuisine, the chili pepper was quickly adopted, building upon a base already known for strong aromatics and the unique numbing effects of native Sichuan peppercorns. They combined the chili heat from the peppercorn's numbness. This created the signature mala profile, which is what makes Sichuan cuisine in its modern, famous form so special. Just like Sichuan peppercorns, these chili peppers were prized not only for their stimulating flavors, but also for their believed ability to combat humidity and to preserve food. In fact, people of Sichuan even have a popular saying that sums up this belief. We're not afraid of the spicy, we're afraid of it not being spicy. This new mala profile also inspired changes in cooking methods. Stir-frying became more specialized, creating the dry frying technique, which uses minimal oil to concentrate the chili and peppercorn flavors. Additionally, deep frying saw increased use, often applied to proteins before they were tossed in a mala sauce, ensuring a crispy exterior and a strong flavor coating. By the Qing Dynasty, iconic mala dishes emerged, such as early forms of mapo tofu, known for its distinctively numbing and spicy sauces covering tender tofu and minced meat. Another classic is Sichuan hot pot, characterized by a fragrant broth infused with both chilies and Sichuan peppercorn for communal cooking. Meanwhile, further east, Hunan cuisine also saw a big transformation. This cuisine traces all the way back to at least the Han Dynasty, and initially revolved around hearty flavors and extensive preservation techniques like smoking, pickling, curing in salt, and dry curing. Because Hunan did not have local access to Sichuan peppercorns, they had instead turned to using sourness and curing to fight dampness and preserve food. With the introduction of chili peppers, Hunan cuisine embraced its direct fiery heat, often enhancing it with the region's established preservation methods. Stir-frying, pan-frying, and deep frying became especially common, and were often paired with steaming or braising to complete the dish. Another popular cooking method for Hunan cuisine is boiling in light broth, often with vinegar or pickled vegetables to add a sour flavor. The chili pepper worked perfectly with Hunan cuisine's existing traditions and was a perfect alternative to the Sichuan peppercorn. Unlike Sichuan cuisine's numbing element, what makes Hunan cuisine special is its straightforward spiciness, often paired with sour elements to create its signature sour spicy flavor. By the Qing Dynasty, iconic dishes showcased this cuisine, such as the smoked pork stir-fried with chili peppers, which highlighted the contrast between smoky cured meat and the vibrant spice. Another famous dish is steamed fish head with chopped chilies, known for its intense spiciness from a generous topping of chopped pickled chilies. The introduction and adoption of chili peppers refined the modern characteristics of both Sichuan cuisine and Hunan cuisine, establishing them as China's two main spicy culinary traditions. The Qing dynasty served as the culminating period for the 8 great cuisines, which became standardized by the rise of regional restaurants in Beijing. Many of these restaurants were opened by officials and merchants from each region, creating the first recognizable and formal grouping of these cuisines. When we enjoy Chinese cuisine, we're eating more than just food. We're tasting thousands of years of history. China's 8 great cuisines served as a flavorful reminder of historical events and years of cultural exchange. What do you think about China's 8 great cuisines? Which cuisine or dish is your favorite? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed today's topic, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Stay curious, stay magical.